Well, hey, you guys, welcome to the Connection Pointe Worldview podcast. My name is Ron, and we're here with actually a younger version of Dr. Zach Breitenbach and Pastor Trey Shigley, because we're here with a very special episode with the interns. Were you called the Worldview interns?
Yeah. Worldview, and we'll get into like specific like ministries in the Worldview kind of umbrella, but
well, they're considerably younger and considerably more handsome than who I'm normally looking at, and so this is a pleasure to get to spend this time. This Worldview podcast is designed to help you as a parent or guardian go a little bit deeper into places that your student has already gone, and this particular episode with our interns. It's going to cover a breakout session that you guys had at camp. So we had summer camp this summer. It was a combination of middle school and high schoolers, and the Worldview team covered the morning sessions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the breakout sessions that we did were actually later in the afternoon. So we didn't take away from Dr. Zach and Trey's time.
Nice. So Dr. Zach and Trey kind of handled mornings, but then the breakout sessions, you guys actually got to share. And so we get to hear some about that. So it sounds like the theme was how to be an ambassador, which is so key for students to learn. It's key for adults to learn too. So
absolutely.
This is an honor, you guys. So why don't you go ahead and tell me about yourselves, a little bit about your internship and the breakout session you taught at camp this summer.
Yeah. First, I just want to say I'm happy to be here speaking about this, and I was super happy to just be able to share with your kiddos. How to be an ambassador and how to actually take action steps on that. Anyways, my name is Wyatt Elliott. I'm an intern with Trey Shigley, who is in Worldview. Specifically, I focused on the young adult ministry this summer. Yeah.
Nice. And by young adult, you mean younger than me?
Yeah. 18 to 29. So if you fit in that range, then I guess you're a young adult.
Okay, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Shout out young adults.
Just out of the threshold, I think.
That's just barely. What about you, Jake?
Yeah, so, we kind of jumped the gun, but my name is Jake Meyer. I'm the Worldview intern. So I kind of just make sure that everything Trey does runs smoothly and a little bit that Dr. Zach does. Throughout the internship, I've worked on little background things. Trey says, "Oh, I need you to fill out this sheet or do this or that," and so I was just
details guy.
Just working in all the little nitty gritty stuff that takes the burden off of Trey and Zach's shoulders. I got to give the breakout session to the middle schoolers, and Wyatt got to give the breakout session to the high schoolers. And so kind of it's about being an ambassador for Christ, but within that, we talked about what a testimony is, why your testimony is important. We talked about the power of a testimony, and we used 3 examples. We used the demon-possessed man in Mark 5. We used a real-life example from a man named Nick Vujicic. And then me and Wyatt, respectively, shared a bit of our own testimony. And then since this was an interactive breakout session, the kids got time to share their testimonies with each other as well and come up with their own testimonies.
That's really cool. Well, that sounds pretty great. So when you guys talk about sharing your testimony, what's that mean? What's it mean for Christians to share their testimony? Jake, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I got it. So testimony is kind of a word that can get chucked around in a church, and if you don't know Christianese, you might not know what it means.
Yeah, totally.
So basically, at its simplest level, a testimony is just a story. It's a story about your life. It's a moment in your life of how God worked in your life and changed it for the better. You can say your story or you can say testimony. Those things are interchangeable. And kind of within your testimony, there's 3 aspects, 3 parts of your story. Kind of any good movie or any good book has a beginning, middle, and end.
Right.
And so when you're giving your testimony, you can format it in that manner. So whether you're talking about how you became a Christian or maybe just a moment where you met God and He transformed your life, either way, they'll still follow the before, during, and after. And so if I could dive deeper into each of those 3 parts. The before is kind of how did you need God? What was your relationship with God like? What was your life like? How did you struggle? what was missing in your life, where something had to change, right? This is the part of the movie where the problem gets introduced, right? The conflict.
Yeah.
And then you go into the middle part of your story, which is, what did God do for you? How did God help you? You can talk about your feelings. Was it exciting or was it scary? How did it affect you at the time? So this is the middle and the climax of your story, where you're talking about where God met you in that moment. Maybe you were struggling with depression or anxiety, and one night you were praying out to God, and He touched your heart and changed you. And then the third part is after God helped. So this is the resolution part of the movie. This is, how's life been better since God helped? This is positive changes in your life. You can talk about what God means to you now. This is a good point. If you're sharing your testimony with a non-believer especially, to tell them like how what God did for you changed your perspective on who He is and how loving He is as a person. And you can talk about what God's still teaching you, because our stories are still being written. We are not in eternity yet, so there's a lot more coming.
Right. So there's a sense in which, there is the beginning, middle, and end of your testimony, but the end is ongoing. That's that's kind of the what now.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a easier time or a harder time with any of those three? Which one came the easiest? Talking about the beginning, the middle, or the end? Which did you find to be, personally, when you gave your own testimony? Was talking about the past harder? Was talking about what he's doing now harder? Which one was the hardest part?
Yeah, I think the hardest part for me specifically was probably the after, because yes, it is like it's continuing to be written, but I think it was hard for me to clarify that, because I am still trying to learn that myself. Honestly, if I'm being real, I'm still trying to.
It's a work in progress, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to see that is like hard to put it into words, because if I'm not visualizing it myself, which I guess you can't, like, that's why we have to trust in God, right? Because
totally.
He continues to work, and He continues to pour His grace over us, and pull us out of our middle part of that story, right?
Yeah.
And save us from our struggles.
Yeah. Jake, did you have...
Yeah, I definitely agree with Wyatt. In my testimony specifically, the aftermath of it wasn't really it didn't change my circumstances and kind of what I was struggling with, but it changed how I viewed my struggle. And I'll get more into... I guess we'll both get more into our testimonies in a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, so next, you tried to help students see the power that a testimony can actually have. So you started with an example from the Bible. Can you tell us about that, Wyatt?
Yeah, so this was actually the first one we showed a video for. We do this for this one, and then the next one we shared a video we'll get to talk about Nick Vujicic. But this is a story out of... Mark 5, 1 through 20. This was mainly to show, the power of a testimony, like he said. So we see in Mark 5 that Jesus heals a demon-possessed man, but we'll actually notice in the video when we show them, I told them, hey, think about this thing. Think about the three parts of the main story that we just talked about, but also notice what Jesus tells the man after he heals him. And then we're actually going to see later in Mark 8 that God uses... this man's testimony in his story in a huge way. So we watched the video. Basically, Jesus goes to Decapolis, the region of the 10 towns, and there's a man who is at the lowest of lows. He's cutting himself. He's living in caves. They can't even hold him down by chains. And a legion of demons is multiple demons. They said we are many. It says in the video. Which means it wasn't just one demon holding this guy down. He had a lot of demons. So this guy's really at the lowest of lows. Jesus comes along, and the demons they tremble at Jesus' feet, and they plead to be thrown into the pigs. So Jesus heals the man, sends these legion of demons to over 2,000 pigs, and these pigs immediately run off into the shore and drown themselves. And this man's miraculously healed. But we'll notice that this man, obviously, who wouldn't? If Jesus comes into your life and then heals you, you would want to follow every single step he does.
Right.
But Jesus does something interesting here. He actually says, no, Go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been. Kind of strange, right?
Yeah.
Like he has to go and share what he did. He doesn't get to follow. Why wouldn't Jesus want an extra follower, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to see what he actually did. So the man obeyed Jesus. He goes to the 10 towns. He goes to his family like Jesus told him to. And he proclaims the great things that Jesus had done for him. And it says that everyone was amazed after he told them this. Yeah. So, we notice that Jesus was actually paving the way for something huge to happen. Now we look at Mark 7, and it says that Jesus soon went back to the region of the 10 towns, also known as Decapolis. And it says that a huge crowd of over 4,000 people gathered to hear Jesus speak about God in Mark 8. It is extremely likely that because this man was obedient in sharing his testimony, now 4,000 people who sent Jesus out of the town because they were scared of him before, when he comes back because of the power of the story that he was telling and what Jesus did for him, 4,000 people get to hear the good news that Jesus gets to share with them. And you know what else? They get to witness a miracle of Jesus dividing fishes and loaves to feed every single person there, which was one of the greatest miracles of all time. So it's amazing that this man was obedient, and I shared with the students. I was like, and that's exactly what God calls us to do, right? Yes, we're supposed to follow Jesus, but we're exactly where we're at on our sports teams, in our classrooms, in our families, to share what God has done in our lives, just like this man. And we're gonna look at more of how powerful that can be.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, to have had that experience that guy had, and I'm sure people were aware of him, but as he goes back, then the absolute life change that they could witness too, would be crazy. So he's like sharing the story both with his words, but also his life is like telling the story too. And
right.
That'd be hugely transformational. So that's really powerful story. There's so many testimonies like right there in the Bible, which is great. Well, then you guys gave an example of a modern story. You talked about a man who goes around the world, shares his powerful story of what God has done in his life. Can you explain that for us, Jake?
Yeah, so if you've never heard of Pastor Nick Vujicic, he was born in Melbourne, Australia, and he was born without arms or legs. So
I know you can do the accent. That's why I'm giggling.
Yeah, right. I was born in Melbourne, Australia, 1982.
All right, for context, real quick, the video we when Jake and I were practicing for this breakout, we watched this video over and over again, obviously to prepare.
Yeah.
But it would start the exact same way, and he would say it in his Australian accent, and it was something we had like
Just
a little fun
inside
thing.
joke.
Yeah.
Now you guys are all in on it.
You got
too.
it committed to memory before you
Yeah.
showed the students.
No, we both watched each other give our breakouts, and both times we would make eye contact and mouth the words as the video was doing it. And when I did it in particular, the middle school, I think they were 7th grade boys that were sitting right in front of me, noticed me doing it, and they started laughing.
I think those were my guys at camp, actually, who I led.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's a good camp moment.
Yeah,
And no, I know Nick a little bit, and he would like actually find that amusing. And
That's great. That's awesome.
It's super good.
Yeah, but I guess for Nick's story, he was born without arms or legs, and obviously that's a pretty debilitating condition.
Yeah.
But through Nick hearing a message about Jesus healing a blind man, and him spreading his testimony to people, Nick was like, "Whoa! Like I can do this too. Like maybe God had me be born this way so that I could spread His word." And so he's traveled around the world, and he's spread the gospel to many different countries, over 6 continents, everywhere but Antarctica he's preached at. He's been involved in national dedications to Christianity, so a nation deciding that they're going to put Jesus first.
Yeah.
He's been there for the signings of contracts for that, and it's just an incredible story of where someone might see struggle and inconvenience and just a difficult life.
Yeah.
Nick has so much joy, and just like a passion for Jesus, and he spreads that with the people around him. And so the kids got to watch the video where Nick explains all that, and then we talked about, like, obviously there wasn't a single middle schooler at camp that didn't have their arms or legs.
Right.
Like Nick's story is very very specific to
unique.
him.
Yep.
Super
yep.
unique. And so I knew that when I hear stuff like that, I'm like, okay, well, I was baptized when I was 8. I don't remember being baptized barely.
Right. Your story doesn't
my
feel
story
as
doesn't
unique.
feel as unique as Nick's. But kind of what Wyatt was touching on earlier, like, Nick can't be in your school, right?
Right.
Talking to that kid that sits to the right and behind you.
Totally.
That looks like they're having a rough day,
Right.
He can't comfort your baseball team or your football team or your marching band member who you know is, like, struggling with anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Nick is in Pakistan, right? He can't preach in your school, right? For your FCA,
Yeah.
you know? God gives us all a calling and a story to be able to tell people, and Nick's was just a really good example of that.
Yeah, and I think that was an overarching theme that kind of tied into our whole talk, was like we're empowering these students to feel confident in sharing their story. So I think it was super key for Jake and I to be able to sit there and say, hey, no, like, yeah, Nick is amazing and he's doing amazing work for God, but you're called to the same thing, just in a different area.
Totally.
And it was nice to be able to reassure them in that, because I know, like Jake said, like some people were definitely sitting there and they were like, yeah, like I said, I literally said to them, I was like, you might have your arms and legs, but that's great. Like, God still wants to use you, you know?
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, on the one hand, he can use anyone.
Yeah.
Even someone who, born in Australia, without arms and legs. On the other hand, people who have a little more common stories actually might be able to connect with people that feel like they don't have a unique story or something, because when it comes down to it, we all do in some aspect. And I like what you said about having the access to Nick isn't sitting in their class or working with these people or whatever, but you are. That's really cool, guys. Well, now then, a really powerful part of your talk was being able to share a story about what God has done in your own life. So both of you, I'd love to hear what that was like for you guys as you'd move from a Bible testimony to kind of a modern testimony to then your own personal story. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you want to start, Wyatt?
Yeah, I can take it. I thought this was a really special moment. And I thought this part honestly had one of the biggest impacts I saw after camp in the students' lives. I got super real with these high school students. I'm gonna be honest. I was vulnerable, but I think that was the right thing to do. And I shared my story, and it is a vulnerable story. It's one that has people perked up, sitting on their seats, like, oh, wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
And I won't go into crazy detail on here, but I mean, you can ask your high school student who was in there if they remember my story, if you want to know. But
well, we just somebody even referenced it at the breakthrough night. We just had some students share their testimony and mentioned yours being a blessing to give them the ability to share their own.
Which I was hanging out with second graders during the worship night, so I couldn't hear that, but I heard that someone told me that. And I just knew. I was like, whoa, that's cool. God's using this.
Yeah.
He right there. That is the example, the whole epitome of why we're talking about sharing your testimony.
Totally reinforces all of this. Yeah,
and
it's huge.
Yeah, exactly. It really does reinforce it. But yeah, so like Ron was just talking about, I saw lasting effects from just being vulnerable and open to these students and saying, hey, it is okay to struggle, but here's what God has done in my life, and He's gonna do huge things for you guys as well. And yeah, I think the coolest thing is after the talk, I had students coming up to me being like, hey, can we talk sometime? Mm-hmm. Even I had a student come up to me and was like, I haven't been going to church much and I just don't know if it's for, but after hearing your talk, my talk, he was like, I want to start going more. And it's just things like that. Like I heard multiple people came up to me after, and it was just like, oh, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
To impact others. We really are in the people business here. and I just want to love people straight to Christ through, even if it's through sharing vulnerable things, which is super cool. We got the opportunity to do that.
That's awesome. Jake, what about you?
So it was kind of interesting to share my story with middle schoolers because obviously we have to. They're mature, but not as mature as high schoolers.
Yeah, you got to make it age appropriate.
Yeah, you got to make it age appropriate.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into detail about mine either. Again, parents, you can ask your middle schoolers if they remember my story. But this is the second time this summer actually that I've gotten to give a talk about identity and share my testimony. So I've been seeing firsthand like the power of vulnerability.
Yeah.
And I think that for me was kind of the epitome of what this whole ambassadorship that we're called to is supposed to do, right? It's supposed to bring depth to relationships, to people. We live in a culture where everything is surface level, right? And no one thinks they need Jesus because they never see below the surface of even their own lives, much less other people's, right?
Yeah.
And so when you bring the vulnerability, when you bring the rawness of a testimony to somebody, it can cause them to examine themselves and just see like, this thing that like I don't really talk about with people, this dude up there on stage is talking about the exact same thing that I'm struggling with. I didn't know.
Yeah.
You're right. I thought that
you were the only one.
I'm talking to middle schoolers. They're like, this big, like high schooler. Well, I guess I'm graduated now. I'm not a high schooler anymore.
For camp.
Right. This old fart up on stage. He's struggling currently with the same thing that I am. What? Like that's crazy. And Jesus values depth, and I think my favorite part about giving a testimony is being able to show kids that it's okay to go deeper, right? It's okay to say things that you might think are uncomfortable, right? Especially when you're around the community of a church, right? Of a Christian people that understand, they've been through it, right? They're not, of course, there's churches and there's people out there that can be judgmental. Yeah. But when you understand, like, man, he's going through the same thing that I am. Yeah. He's going through the same thing that I've previously gone through. It leads to so much healing. Me and Wyatt kind of all summer, when this kind of thing comes up, we reference James 5:16, which it is the only place in the Bible where it says, "Do this and you'll be healed." And it's talking about confession to one another. To each other, yeah. Talk to one another about your sins, about the hard times, and it'll bring healing. That's from Scripture. That's not me preaching some like prosperity thing. Right. Yeah. That's legit. Yeah. And so...
Well, let me ask you that question, though. Why do you think that's so healing? Why do you think God brings healing when you're vulnerable and honest about your struggles with each other? Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I'll just share real quick. I mean, vulnerability saved my life. That's how I found Jesus. I was at the JW Marriott in Indianapolis, and I shared my sin struggles with 3 of my brothers in Christ now, and I felt so loved. I felt so much. I felt like I was wrapped in the arms of grace of Jesus, and I think that speaks right to it. Is why is it healing? It's because we see the love of Christ in that. Yeah, I think it's not only is it encouraging to know, hey, I'm not alone. Yeah, but it's like, you really are who you say you are, Jesus. Totally. Because I see it through this person and how they're responding to me and how they're loving me straight back to you and pointing me to you. And I think that's where the healing comes from right there.
That's huge. I think that's it. I think the enemy really wants to isolate, and sin isolates. And then if he can actually like relationally isolate you because of your sin. So
Yeah.
you're just in your own head. You can't let anybody else in. Then your heart starts to kind of wither in that isolation and separation from God and God's love.
Yeah.
But then to be able to open up and, like you said, have other people embrace you and meet you there with grace and his love, then the isolation's gone, the separation from him is gone. So that's hugely healing. What a blessing. That's super cool, guys.
All of my major like God moments and moments where I like was led to like large scale repentance was after a conversation with one of my good buddies,
opening up.
The testimony I gave at camp, like the catalyst for me finding God in that moment was a conversation that I had with a buddy.
I remember back just last summer, Jake, with my son and your group of guys, like just at the fire pit back there, a couple nights in a row of pretty honest sharing that led to a lot of healing.
Actually, it was on one of the walks at one of those campfires I went with Brad. And that was how I how I found healing. So I'm speaking from experience. Like I can cite James 5:16 all day. I'm telling you it works. God uses people.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing. Every single, like Jake said, every single God moment where God literally turns my life around or heals me in some way has been a result of me being vulnerable and taking it. Vulnerability, guys, is really a step of faith because it's scary. Like it's not easy. And I just want to encourage you listening right now that if there's something you feel heavy on, a burden on you right now, you feel like you're chained down by some sin or something, take a step of faith and go share it with someone you trust, please, because it will bring healing. I promise you. All three of us can speak from experience and say that you should go share. You're going to feel so much better, and you will be healed.
And I think that's wise to, like you said, being able to trust the person you're going to share with is key.
100%.
Because we've all had experiences where we've shared with the wrong person in the wrong context, and then that's why we don't share again.
Right.
But there's always a few that really reflect the heart of Jesus in that moment, and when you've got a couple that you can, then it's priceless. So you guys wrapped up the lesson then by letting the students write down and share their testimonies. So, Wyatt, you want to talk about that? What was that like?
Yeah, so we flipped the script a little bit. Like we said, or I don't know if we said this in the beginning, but this was an interactive breakout session, which means they weren't just going to sit here and listen to us teach them. They're actually going to put pen to paper, put words into practice and get into the nitty-gritty and share their own stories. So that's exactly what we had them do. We started out by giving them probably 10, 12 minutes to just sit in silence and reflect on, okay, what is my before, my during, and after of my God story? What has God done? So we gave them that space to truly reflect on that. And I gave them, I was like, hey, write out your before, write out your during, what did God do for you? And then write your after. And then, so they did that. And I think it was this is a cool moment. I saw people in the front row after the time was up. They're still pen to paper going hard at it. And I just thought that was super cool because I know for high schoolers, which this is more expected, but they were taking it seriously, which means they want to be vulnerable. They want to be sharing their testimonies. So after they wrote down their stories pretty much, we split them up, told them to pair up with the people they had been talking to before about previous questions we had talked through during the talk, and we had them just straight up share their story.
Awesome.
For the first, maybe it was the first time for some of them. Maybe they had done it 100 times. Either way, it's still good to continue to practice. But I think what that can do for someone when you write it out, when you reflect, and you're in a setting where, hey, I'm in a safe space, and I can actually share with the person, and I trust the person I'm talking to. Honestly, guys, I think it gave them so much more confidence to share with, like we said, the people in their classrooms, their teammates, and their family members. And that's what I love so much about this being an interactive breakout session, is it gave them the opportunity to say, okay, let's actually do something about this. This isn't just like, all right, I'm going to listen to this. Okay, I'm just waiting to go to free time.
Right.
It's like, okay, if I actually do this, I'm going to be more likely to be like, oh, this was impactful. Let me actually go do this with the people I want Jesus to know Jesus. And yeah, it was super fun just hearing how that part was specifically impactful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got to see like instant, like a fire for giving your testimonies in my breakout session.
Yeah, which is huge.
Which is awesome because I'm with middle schoolers, and so, like God bless one of our girl leaders for the middle schoolers. She's actually a high schooler. Her name's Lauren. She came up to me while the kids were sharing their testimonies with each other, and she was like, "Hey, do you mind if I, after this, go up and share my testimony with the kids?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." Like, what? Just come up and tell me you're gonna do it. You don't gotta ask. So we were super blessed to get to hear her share her story as well, and the middle schoolers to see like, whoa, like I can do this. I can do this now.
Yeah.
You know, I can walk out of this room and share my testimony with somebody.
That's awesome.
Right? So that was just a super big blessing, and I wanted to highlight that. That was definitely a highlight for me.
Shout out Lauren Kodrick. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, we like to wrap up these podcasts with a question that we pose that would be a good discussion questions for parents to have with their student about this particular topic. So what's a good question related to this particular lesson, sharing your testimony, how to be an ambassador for Jesus, that parents could discuss with their students?
Yeah, I think first asking them, like, hey, do you actually feel prepared? Is what you learned, is what you were taught actually helpful? And even just talking through, like, what did you learn or from sharing your testimony? And I think this is a great opportunity based on their response to say, and this could be awesome for parents and your kids to have a vulnerable, serious moment that you might have never had before, because you can just, guys, ask them, do you want to share it with me? Like,
yeah, totally.
I think that's so overlooked, is like, we have our walks with Jesus, even for Christian parents and kids who are Christians. I think it's overlooked that we don't share with each other, because there's this like, I don't know, for me at least, there's always been this like weird thing where like, I don't want to be vulnerable with my parents because I'm afraid of how they're going to think about me.
Yeah.
Create a space where it create that safe space, whatever that looks like to you, and say, hey, I want to hear your story. Ask them. I think you'll be surprised what they're going to share with you if you just simply say, you want to share your story with me?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, parents, too, it might be an opportunity for you to share your testimony. And again, the more vulnerable, the better, because the reality is they probably have never heard your testimony either. So having an opportunity to share mutually would be really, really awesome. You guys, I am like so blessed by both of you and super proud of who you are. I know our church has been super blessed to have you both ministering this whole summer long. What's next for you guys, and when do you switch out of here and back to what's next?
Yeah, so in like a week at the time of this recording, I'm heading off to college, first year at Purdue for engineering. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's sad for us, but super cool for you, and it's not that far away. So
it's not that far.
That's good. Wyatt?
Yeah. So the plan was just to go back down to IU because I have an apartment down there. But God opened a door, and after my internship, I'm actually jumping on staff with Connection Point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
I'm extremely pumped.
That makes me happy. That's cool. That's cool. Well, you guys are really a part of this strongest generation that God's raising up. It's a huge blessing to have been able to spend this time, and thanks for what you poured into our students. If you've got questions or needs about the church, you can go to connectionpoint.org. That's connectionpoint.org, point with an E, or cp.news if you got questions. Please know, in the meantime, we're praying for you and your students. We love you so much. We'll be back with another episode real soon.